I think that this area became a hotbed of this kind of a music from the types of people that were in the valley. During the Depression and the Dust Bowl, people left Arkansas and Texas and Oklahoma and came to California. They all brought their music with them, and Bakersfield became just a hotbed of country music, and it was raw, it was not influenced by what was on the radio, so a lot of unique stuff came out of this area.
Americans have been migrating to California for decades and centuries, in fact. Then comes this catastrophic event in the Plain states, in Oklahoma and Kansas and Arkansas, the Dust Bowl, this natural devastation of agriculture. And a lot of people, Okies we came to call them, had relatives back in California, and they would write back or call and say, is there work out there for me? And they come on out. So from about 1935 through 1950, people from the Midwest, southern Midwest, came to California, and they brought their music with them. They brought their religious sensibilities, a more fundamentalist religious perspective. They brought conservative politics to a great extent, and they changed the way California is.
I just blowed in and I got them Dust Bowl blues. I just blowed in and I got them Dust Bowl blues. I just blowed in and I'll blow back out again.
The clash of these two cultures in California did produce a certain amount of friction. There was a more, I don't know how to characterize the religious majority of California before the Dust Bowl, but it was kind of a Presbyterian, upright in your pew, more formal type of religion, whereas the Okies came out with this fundamentalist, stand up and shout type of religion. And that was one of the things, the religious differences that kind of set the Okies apart in a negative way, where they were viewed negatively to a great extent by the people that are already here, and that was part of it. When we think of the Dust Bowl migrants, we think of people who came out and lived in the federal migrant labor camps, the Weed Patch Camp, which is where the Grapes of Wrath took place and where the movie was filmed. So there was some poverty, and there were people that were living in squalor outside of the camps as well. Okies that lived in these camps would work with farm labor contractors who would come in, throw them on the truck, take them out to the field to work, and they'd work long, hard days and come back. There was no TV, there was no radio, there was little in the way of entertainment, so they would sit outside their tents or on their stoops with a guitar and a harmonica, and that was the evening's entertainment. You had the Dust Bowlers come out from the mid-30s up through the 50s. You also had a great migration, it's a greater migration than the Dust Bowl actually, of World War II workers. They would come to the shipyards of Northern California, they'd come to the aircraft factories of Southern California. You had this great assemblage of people from all over the country. Now after World War II, you have all these people saying, okay, what do I do now? And some of them went home, some of them stayed in California, and many of them settled in the Bakersfield area.
Folks, if you just tuned in, my name is Buck Owens, and these boys are the Buckaroos. This is called the Buck Owens Show, and this is the Buck Owens Ranch. So that's a lot of Buck Owens, ain't it? We'd like to say thank you so much for tuning us in. Tell your friends about it, and be sure and tune us in next week or next month or the next time we come your way, okay? Meantime, here's my favorite time of the show. Here's Hymn Time. Miss Kay is going to sing it. Don and I are going to help her. Here's Wait a Little Longer, Please, Jesus.
Buck Owens, grew up working alongside Hispanics in the fields, and his music has sort of a rockabilly sensitivity, but also sort of a Hispanic Latino sound to it.
So you found your Prince Charming was just a dream.
I think Buck Owens was a very innovative singer that with his sound burst on the scene in the mid-60s when country music needed to be shaken up a little bit. Buck grew up very poor. When he was growing up, his dad would always talk about the man. The man was the guy that ran the labor camp or the farmer or whatever. It was always us against the man, and it was a hard, scrabble, tough life. Later on, when Buck became an entertainer, I think the record companies became the man. I think the best way to explain the Bakersfield Sound was, at the time it came out, Nashville was putting out country music that was very syrupy, lots of instruments, lots of strings, lots of background singers. They were trying to go the cosmopolitan kind of a smooth country route at that time. And when Buck came on the scene with a stripped down four-piece group with lots of drums and energy, it was kind of like when the Beatles hit the pop scene back in the mid-60s. It was very raw and exciting.
All I gotta do is strike naturally.
You had some natural audiences, some blue-collar audiences, ready-made, who had an appreciation for this music. You had people who worked in the fields, you had oil field workers, and this culture developed around some of these sort of bars, these saloons, the Blackboard maybe being the most famous. And things got a little rough at the Blackboard. It was famous for some fisticuffs breaking out. It might have been overstated, legend can sort of take over, but it became a mecca for professional artists.
If the house gets back, and ain't no water around. Buzz my truck out the window, and let the house burn on down. Ain't no staying home no how.
They were playing these places like the Blackboard. They were playing places with cement floors and tin roofs, and the ambiance was just so different. I think the listening public in Bakersfield did see some of themselves in what they were hearing. Artists like Merle Haggard, in particular, he would tell the story of the people. He told, working man blues, very, very blue collar.
Well, I keep my nose on the grindstone, work hard every day. I might get a little tired on the weekend after I draw my pay, but I go back working. Come Monday morning, I'm right back with the crew. I drink a little beer that evening and sing a little bit of this working man blues.
There was sort of a bad guy appeal that was working for people. This is back in the time Bonnie and Clyde, the movie Bonnie and Clyde came out later in the 60s. Merle Haggard was personified that outlaw. And a lot of artists of that time kind of had a rough edge to them that people just went for. Now when the public started hearing these Bakersfield artists and recognizing how different they were than the sameness of Nashville, it just stood out. Buck Owens, once he hit it big, he just nailed them one right after the other because he was so different and so fresh from what the American public had been used to.
He had 21 number one records in a row. He had the #1 record in the United States. On the A side, the B side was #2, and they stayed like that for weeks, just flip-flopping back and forth.
Is anybody going to San Antonio or Phoenix, Arizona?
I'd have to say the heyday of the Bakersfield Sound was 1965. Buck Owens had been making hits consistently, very consistently, since 1959, 1960, 61. He was just knocking them dead one after the other. By this time, Merle Haggard had established himself. He had formed a band with the Strangers, and Bonnie Owens, Buck's former wife, had come aboard with him as a backing vocalist. And the first ACM Awards were in LA in 1965, and it was a clean sweep for the Bakersfield performers. Merle Haggard was Entertainer of the Year, the Strangers were the Band of the Year, and that was it. That was the commercial heyday for sure. Bakersfield was not able to replace Merle Haggard and Buck Owens with stars at the same caliber, stars that didn't shine as bright. There were some stars that came along afterward, but nobody really had that sort of impact that Merle and Buck did. And I think it just sort of faded away a little bit.